You got Maga Mac here with you on Birds 365. Appreciate you streaming in. Hit the like button. It's not going to kill you to hit the like button as long as you're tuned in. And you got the Providence kid, Mike Gill, on your streaming screen. Now, of course, you have to hit the like button. When was the last time you were in Providence, Mike Gill?
Probably 2 summers ago, 2021. I was in Boston, Providence, Boston, Newport. I did the whole little New England waltz down there. I like Providence. Nice town. Very underrated.
And did they, when I was watching college basketball the other day, they got a new sponsor for the Providence Arena?
Oh, yeah.
Because forever, wasn't it the Dunk?
Dunkin'
Because,
Dunkin' Donuts was the sponsor.
Was a sponsor, and I introduced the game from the whatever arena, and well, it's not Providence.
For years, it was the Providence Civic Center before they had the name and everything. And then it was the Dunkin' Donuts Center.
That's the dark ages, John.
Yeah.
Now it's a corporate sponsor.
Well, sadly, because I'm a wrestling fan, I used to know every arena in the country. But then they started changing all the names, and I couldn't keep up. I just now it's like the some kind of insurance company. Mutual, I think.
I was thinking about this the other day, actually, because my girlfriend is like from up by Syracuse, and
whereabouts?
It's not called the Carrier Dome. It's not called the Carrier Dome anymore. They changed the name of that. It's some other sponsor. Heinz Field is whatever that is.
Oh, yeah, that's another.
If you're the sponsor after the longtime sponsor, are you really getting your bang for the buck?
No, you're not. That's a good point, Mike, because everybody calls Heinz Field.
Yeah, Carrier Dome is always I don't think people even understand that Carrier is an air conditioning company. Yeah. It's just the name of the dome in Syracuse. No longer.
Now, here's how sick I am. I could tell you, and again, not the new name, the old name of the indoor arena in Syracuse used to be the Onondaga War Memorial. There you go. That's some.
I called a game from there, John McMullen. I've called a game from there before, back in my college days when I was doing play-by-play. I called a game there. You talk about these names of stadiums like the Omni in Atlanta,
the Omni.
You got to go back to getting the corporate sponsors out and just naming them.
Something. It was, and the one that will never change. I think you should never say never, but the one that will never change is Madison Square Garden. I don't think they'll ever.
Yeah, they've never sold it, and they've had the chance to sell the naming rights, and they never did. So I think you're right about that, John. And I'm sorry, the greatest of all time was right here in Philadelphia when the title sponsor for the basketball / hockey arena was the First Union Center, a.k.a. the FU Center. Doesn't get any better than that. I'm sorry. That's the best of all time just because I'm a jerk. All right, Mike, glad you're a Providence guy with us today. There any draftable players coming out of Providence this year we can talk about with the
I'm not even sure Providence has a football team.
I don't think they have. That's why, the joke, the attempt to humor I was trying.
A hockey guy. I got a hockey guy on my shirt here. See that?
There we go. Yeah, New England. That's hockey central, man. Providence is a cool town, though. I agree with Mike. It's if you're going to Boston, stay in Providence. It's better.
And hopefully you go into a Patriot game because it's a quicker commute from Providence. Than
that's what I meant. If you're going to a Patriots game,
which Eagle fans don't have to worry about. They're not playing in New England this year. They played in New England last year.
No,
so that's a couple years. You got to wait to take your Providence trip. All right. Have you ever had Craig Carton on your show as a guest?
Oh boy.
It's funny you say I have not, but I interned at WIP. I was your intern, Jody. Craig was on at that time during the night, and when the whole Lindros thing, I never met the guy. I don't know him, but he did work in my company for a while. When we were owned by a different company, he was at New Jersey 1015, which is the parent company of where I work. I don't know him, but it's funny because this morning was watching a YouTube video in preparation for coming on this YouTube show. And they were talking about this Craig Carton comment here. So I am up to date and versed on it because I don't think it got a lot of attention.
You kid because you care. Thank you very much. I do know, Craig. You're right. You were there as an intern. I was hosting during the midday, and Craig was on at night. And I will say this, and a lot of people probably don't know this. Craig was a really good, I'm not just talking about got the job done, a really good, hardworking Eagle beat guy.
Really?
Way back when he was the Elliott Shore Parks of WIP. It was his job. He went on the road with the Eagles and had a good relationship with some Eagle people and would break Eagle stories. Yeah, way back when, Craig Carton was a pretty damn good Eagle beat reporter when he was at WIP.
I did not know that. That's knowledge to me.
Many years.
What outlet? Was he for the radio station?
Oh, WIP. He was the Eagles WIP reporter, like Elliott Shore Parks is now.
Gotcha, okay.
He was Elliott Shore Parks before there was an Elliott Shore Parks. And just my personal opinion, he's pretty damn good at it. He got good information and had good sources, and every once in a while broke a story while doing so. And then he became a throw the stuff at the wall and see what sticks. Highly paid.
Funny. Well, we were talking about that yesterday with certain guys. Skip Bayless, it's hard for people to believe, was a well-respected reporter for many, many years before he changed industries. Yeah, and there's a lot of guys. There's a local guy that I shall not name, but he's not a well-respected reporter now. That was some nonsense yesterday. I'll say it out loud. Mike, when you hear stuff like that, it's like, crap or get off the pot. If you got something, say it. But then everybody would, dismiss it. And I saw Adam Schefter was already on. Nothing to it. That's what I was told. Nothing to it. They don't know what the hell he's talking about. I don't know. Why do people do this?
Well, isn't this the time of the year, especially when something goes as bad as the Eagles did, where nobody can identify a primary reason for such a epic collapse that everyone's like, something will come out. Something will come out. Well, there is either what Jody's saying, the attempt to throw something at the wall and say, this is what's coming out, or as the other side is now saying, nothing to it. Is there something in the middle, or is it just a case of?
I'll give him that. I'm sure he heard some gossip somewhere from somebody who's just making crap up or whatever.
Right. Well, that's the thing is this time of the year. Oh, something will come out. Something will come out. Well, are we discounting this coming out as this is just an attempt at trying to throw something at the wall, or do we take it with a grain of salt, or do we say, you know what, that makes more sense than anything else I've heard?
Well, I would recommend taking it with a grain of salt. I can't force people to take things, but again, the way he did it was like, and I don't know. I only watched it once because I rolled my eyes. Jody, you probably have a better take. You can explain it better than me. Is the actual wording? He knows something, but he's not going to say it. Well, why the hell aren't you saying it?
That's just flat out ridiculous. Here's for me, because you said it was a problem that would splinter men. Well, we didn't think the Eagles had any women in the locker room, so that was pretty redundant that it would splinter men. And it's a problem that cannot be fixed. So now he's interjecting himself into how big a problem it is. And that's you got to have serious details to be able to say it's a problem that can't be fixed, which is, I think, Craig taking liberties. And he said it was a high profile Philadelphia Eagle who may not be here going into the season. So again, he gave you a lot of details, but he left out the all-important detail. That's a puzzle with the biggest piece in the middle not being there. And, oh, by the way, I'm not going to give you that piece to the puzzle. Yeah, it's annoying. Yeah, it's probably just throwing stuff at the wall.
The people that I saw, the aggregators who wrote about this after the fact, they all used the same picture. Not the same picture, literally, but the same picture of two people. And I think that was the hope of Craig Carton. I can't prove it. I don't know the guy. And the two people were Jalen Hurts and AJ Brown.
That's as high profile as it gets.
You know, I think it was done with purpose. I think it landed. I think everybody who did write about it in an aggregate type of way, again, used the same picture and went the same direction. So he accomplished his goal of getting noticed. Very similar to Chris Sims, much lesser. He's Jalen Hurts' most overrated player in football. I think these guys do this purposefully. And it works. So,
well, if you're talking about high-profile players, you don't really have any on the Eagles other than those two. I mean, Jason Kelce, I guess, would be somewhat high-profile, but other than that, who else on this roster is a high-profile player other than A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts?
I'll give you one, and it would, again, be a stretch, just as all of this seems to be a stretch. Maybe his source said, yeah, the Eagles are going to trade Hassan Reddick. Just his outrageous salary demands. There's no way they're being met. They've put it out there and spun it for a specific way that made it sound like Hassan wanted to be traded, that they're moving on from Hassan Reddick. I would call him a high enough profile guy. Now, again, that's just making stuff up. I'm readily admitting I'm making stuff up here, folks, Eagle fans. I'm not stating this. I'm not saying this. I'm just coming up with a theory. I'd call Hassan Reddick a high enough profile player that if he needed to be elsewhere for whatever reasons, then that could fill the void that Craig was just, I think, making stuff up and pointing at.
Yeah, and he plays on the defensive side of the ball, and I guess you could say, yeah, the defense did fall apart, but I mean, it felt like he was insinuating why the offense was a mess, is these two guys couldn't.
Well, I think that's the beauty of it. You can go in any direction.
Right.
I mean, Howie's.
Oh, yeah. But like Hassan Reddick, okay, let's hypothetically say it was Reddick beefing with somebody. Okay, a high profile player on defense. Who else would he? I mean, okay, Fletcher Cox. He might not even be here anyway. But Brandon Graham, is he a high profile player? Maybe here. Probably not league-wide anymore if he ever was. I mean, really, on the defense, it would be tough to say two guys had some sort of internal rift that caused the defense to completely fall apart. Offensively, you would say, all right, what happened to this team late in the season? You had a receiver who had a streak of games of 125 yards, 7 straight games. Not that he fell off the map, but he wasn't getting 125 yards anywhere near that for a stretch there. So I would imagine, again, that he was going for it's Brown and Hurts, who had this pre-relationship, which I still find to be very odd. Like, who knew that these two guys even knew each other? And then they were best friends. I guess they went on a recruiting trip one time, but I was in college and I went on a recruiting trip. And I don't remember the guy's name who walked me around the campus, and yet somehow A.J. Brown.
Yeah, but we're a couple more years removed from that, Mike.
We're a couple. And
they were just a couple of years ago for A.J. and
they were high-profile college players.
That would be decades with an S, plural, Mike.
Well, I mean,
gotta be honest about it here, big guy.
When I went to a visit, I didn't remember that guy's name probably the next week. I was like, all right, whatever.
I don't remember anybody's name.
Right.
So
I always felt that this relationship was like, how did these guys become best friends all of a sudden? Like, they trade for A.J. Brown. Oh, he's got his best friend on the team. It's like, how did they even know each other?
Well, I think the best friends part was overblown. I think, they were close, but whatever. I got somebody, a journalist friend of mine who's got like 353 best friends. I always laugh at him. I go, how could you have so many best friends? Best friend, best means best.
But I guess I definitely think that Craig is going for that. It's that these two guys had an issue, and it will come out. I don't want to be the guy that tells you what happened, but I'm just telling you before it comes out.
I think there's 2 layers to this. I think there's 2 layers to this. He accomplished the first layer to get everybody pointing at Jalen and AJ. He accomplished that. And then the second layer where he can point to, see, I told you so. If Howie Roseman trades AJ Brown or Hassan Reddick, as Jody brought up, see, and he'll do more intimation, won't say what happened. He'll do more intimation. when he's trading for football reasons. If he trades either of those guys, it'll be for contract reasons. In AJ's case, because they have to pay Devontae. In Hassan's case, because he wants Myles Garrett-like money, or that's the perception. And then you could do the layer thing and say, oh, I can toggle both directions. It's kind of brilliant. It's still bullshit.
So you're saying a couple of years ago, they tried to trade for Calvin Ridley. So you're saying if they sign Calvin Ridley in free agency before the draft, that should be a sign of you're not getting this third wide receiver who's going to be a great player. This is the precursor to them trying to trade A.J. Brown.
Well, I think, and I'm going to create issues. I don't think they're going
I'm just
to
saying,
trade.
that's the interesting part about football, where free agency comes before the draft.
Yeah,
you have to kind of make those moves before you get into the time where you can.
Yeah, I've always advocated the draft should be before free agency, because you should be able to draft players, and then when you can look at and say, oh, we didn't get this, we didn't get that, then you can go get it in free agency. They do kind of do it backwards, but they just make a lot of money. So it's always, that's the whole trick of football, all right, we got to move this. We got to move this to pay Devontae. We got to do this. We can't afford to pay Hassan this, but we can pay him this. And then if you do make a move, a high profile move, people don't think about that. They say, oh, what's the reason other than strictly salary cap, financial things like that? That's the only reason I was bringing up a potential trade of AJ Brown. And then the part there are some, with AJ personally, again, there's some social media stuff, and he takes that too intently, and he's had some, which he's honest about. He's had some issues, and should probably stay away from it, but he seems to not. He seems to always come back, and so he's got some mental health things that similar to Lane Johnson that he's been dealing with over the years. So, that factors into it as well. All these things are the real things, and then you could say, oh, the relationship blew up, which I don't think is the case.
Let me play a Craig Carton-like role here. And again, this is me just throwing stuff at the wall and seeing what sticks by asking you two guys a question. Let's say there's something to this, and we're talking about, we're not giving any specifics, and we don't know there's specifics to be given, that there might be a division between Jalen Hurts and AJ Brown. If that's the case, and Howie Roseman at least believes there's enough smoke there that there could be fire, so he looks at it, he asks around, calls around, finds league, seems, wow, yeah, the trade market for AJ Brown. Actually, I could justify in my own mind trading our best overall football player because the offer is that good. And he calls Jalen Hurts into his office and says, listen, I got a chance to make you got to take my word for it here. This is what I do. I'm Howie Roseman, executive of the year, blah, blah, blah. Believe me when I tell you that this is a potential deal that will, this is not a fire sale thing or anything else. Eagles can very much get better for it. But you tell me, do you want AJ Brown on the team, or would you rather see AJ Brown elsewhere? What do you think Jalen would say?
Well, if any of this is true, he might say, I think it's time to move on. And if it's not true, he would say, that's a crazy question.
Succinct.
Right? I mean,
and I like it. Yes.
If you asked him, and if this was all nonsense, he would say, that's preposterous. But if there's any truth to it, he might say, you know what? I think we might be better off without him. Let's spend money in another area. He's making so much money. We can spread that out, and I think Devonta Smith is ready to be the number one wide receiver, if any credence to these comments.
But here's where you have to factor in Jalen, as we all acknowledge it's an unknowing situation right now. Would Jalen even go there? Jalen doesn't seem like the kind of guy who's as opinionated and wants to be involved in these things. I think Jalen wants to be Mr. Narrow Focus, sitting on the bench, staring directly ahead rather than talking to his teammates. Do you think he'd even want to say if Howie called him into the office? Do you think his response would be, Mr. Roseman, that's not my gig. That's your gig. I'm not going
I don't
to.
know. John, do you think that behind closed doors that Jalen is more vocal? I mean, you know, for years, Andy Reid was this stoic guy, and we thought he had zero personality. Now he's flipping burgers in commercials. I mean, he's obviously got some personality behind closed doors, but does Jalen have more of a voice behind closed doors?
I think he's got more of a voice with the players, and with his teammates. He's got more of a voice. I don't think he's got more of a voice with, like to Jody's point, I don't think he's going into Howie's office and saying, "Oh, you got to get AJ Brown out of here." I think it's the exact opposite. I think this is the best football player on the Eagles, AJ Brown. Number one, just pure football players. I think Jalen Hurts is smart enough. Even if they had a schism in their relationship, barring some of the nonsense, I hate to even bring this up, but even if they had a typical fight between friends, nothing earth shattering. What was the description, Jody? That would shatter men.
Nothing splinter like men. Splinter men.
That's how bad it was. Just natural. All right, I think this guy's an a-hole now. I don't want to deal with him, blah, 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 on a personal level. I think he'd still be smart enough to know, guess what? I'm coming off a down season. If I don't have A.J. Brown, I'm probably going to have another down season. And all of a sudden, his career is spiraling. I think he's smart enough to understand that. You don't got to be friends with everybody in the line. I think that's a misconception. There's, when you boil it down, everybody says 53. It's not even 53. You got 16 man practice squad. You got injured reserve. Not everybody gets along. I agree with
you on the surface of, not everybody likes everybody. Not everybody gets along. Totally understand that aspect of it. But I do think it's odd if you have this relationship that was viewed as like up here, like the reason why this team was so good. And then 2 years down the road, the one guy kind of went off on his own way and you went over here. You would think that would have some fracturing of the synergy of why that team is what it is. Like if these two guys every day came in the locker room, yo, HA, great practice today, blah, blah. I'm not saying they were that demonstrative about it, but had that and then all of a sudden it was like, yep. You would think that there is something where the guys would have been like, man, what is up with these two?
I could, and I rarely, somebody commented, Kevin Savard, good comment. He said, John and Jody, you two fight at least once a day.
But you started the show fighting.
Yeah, which we do. And I don't know, Jody might think I'm an asshole, but the minute I like Jody, the minute I leave the airwaves here, I have no ill will to Jody.
Right. Well, like in our business, John and I used to do a show one day a week together for 4 hours. And man, when the Sixers process was going on, he probably said that Mike Gill is an asshole and an idiot.
No,
and I
didn't know.
Right, exactly. But if people were listening, they might think that we just totally didn't respect each other's opinions at all. But the show started at that level. It didn't build to that level. We went in with the understanding that we just don't agree, but I respect your thoughts.
Yeah. I think live at Harris, I thought people thought we were going to fight the one time. And I'm like, no, we're not going to fight. We just disagree on a sports topic.
But the difference is Brown and Hurts' relationship didn't start with disagreements. It's gotten to disagreements. In the beginning, it started with, I respect your opinion, you respect my opinion. And now it's built up to this potentially all hearsay. But
right. Yeah, and I don't even believe, I think it's exactly what the commenter said.
Did you say, John, earlier that Adam
as well?
Did you say that Adam Schefter commented on this?
Yeah, Adam was on John Kincaid's show.
Okay, I did not hear that. I guess they asked him and he had a comment on it.
Yeah, and he said
reach that level of conversation, which I'm sure the Eagles are not thrilled with.
Right, but good on Craig Carton, because if he's got Adam Schefter commenting on his comments on a show,
I will say yes. I will say
what he wanted to achieve.
I have seen the Craig Carton video, but it's only this canned off the television from Kevin Kincaid. Is there any better audio quality of the actual audio, or did nobody else watch this show?
I don't know.
I don't even know what he's on. I don't even know what the show is.
He's on Fox every single morning.
He's on Fox FS1. He's on FS1. It's early. I've never actually seen the show. I have seen social media clips, but the video that I think Kevin Kincaid from Crossing Broad, somebody sent it to him, and they like recorded it off their television. So it's like this very distant sounding. Now you can make the audio out if you're like intently listening, but like if you were using it for radio to say, hey, here's what he said, it wouldn't go out over the air very good. I don't know if anybody else actually saw it.
I saw it from Kevin. That's where I saw it as well. So I didn't go looking for it.
I'm pretty sure FS1 is on demand. So if you missed it, you weren't watching it that moment, you could probably go back and get it and probably get a pretty good audio copy if that's what you're worried about. All right, we've given Craig Carton.
So here's just real quick, I'll tell you, here's what Adam said. I texted someone in the organization yesterday, which so did I. And the text I got back was none of that shit. I can say shit. None of that shit happened. I got a similar.
See, now hold on. Now you can make me take up Carton's side. None of that shit happened. What shit? How do you know? How do you know? Carton didn't say. He didn't tell you what he's referring to. So how can you deny something that someone said nothing about?
Well, we all have plausible evidence of what we think. Like my question,
splintered something that splintered men. Yeah. Something that I use the term shattered.
My question at first was, I know Jalen Hurts, he's not married, but he does have a significant other, right? Yeah. Is A.J. Brown married?
Yes.
Okay. So that would be a splintering, I get. If you're trying to find something that would splinter men.
Yeah, I don't know.
One guy in a relationship, another guy in a relationship. Not that, but Jody, you're saying we don't even know what happened. That's what he's insinuating.
How can you say it didn't happen when you don't know what they're talking about?
I agree with you there.
Just because of the nature of the two people, I'm closer to AJ than Jalen, because Jalen doesn't get close to anybody. AJ is a good guy. He's got two young kids. I'm not going down that route. He loves his kids.
Listen. But my point is, what Jody's saying is that is where Craig is trying to take your mind, is to think that
yes, exactly. And it works.
Mind and stating something are two different things.
Yeah.
So how can you deny something of something that hasn't actually been stated? All right. Now we gave Craig plenty of time. And again, let me say this. Craig, number one, he's a friend. And number two, he was a really pretty good Eagle beat writer back in the day. Long time removed. We're talking more than 20 years ago.
Well, if you still got that text, you should try to get him on the show, Jody. If you got Craig's number. But he's on in the morning.
He's kind of on the air when we're on the air, so we won't be getting.
I think he gets off right when you get on. I think, isn't the show, or is it 8 to 10? I think it's 6 to 8, isn't it?
I don't know.
It's one of the reasons why he left the radio was because the show was.
I think it goes to at least 9 o'clock. I know that, but it might go to 10. I think Bayless comes on immediately thereafter, and I think
Craig and Skip back to back.
Back to back. That's exactly what FS1 has on every day. All right. And another debate. Yeah, John and I almost came to blows on this one. The Eagles in their running back position, they signed a futures running back yesterday. Again, here's where John and I agreed. What's the downside? It's a good signing because there's no real downside to it. But I try to play devil's advocate and say, here's the downside. If they really like this kid, without having seen him play, you're not going to get a chance to look at him. You're judging by what he did in the preseason with the 49ers last year. If they put too much valuation into that, maybe it affects the other running back moves they can make. And I do have a little bit of a fear that could be the case. Eagles have 4 picks in the first 2 days of the NFL draft, number 22, 50, 53, and 97. Give me the percentage chance that they will use one of those picks, either actually take them and or trade them in a deal to get a running back with a trade, whatever. They will use one of those 4 picks between 22 and 97 on a running back. Give me the percentage chance that the Eagles go there.
0.
0. Mike's going 0.
That would be Mike Gill and Jody McDonald in agreement.
Yeah, but but here's now
I will say they got Trey Sermon from the Niners. He was a 3rd-round pick. They picked him up and loved him. They talked about him in the offseason and then didn't do anything with him. I would imagine somebody scouted this guy coming out of the draft, said, hey, we had some interesting thoughts about him. Let's just sign him to a futures deal. We might like him. Running back, and John, I heard you talking about this before I came on, which, you're getting Pacheco in the 7th round. He's one of the 10 best running backs in the whole freaking league. I mean, these teams have got to be devaluing any capital in that position even more than they used to. We're talking about last year. None of these guys are getting paid. You got Derrick Henry, Josh Jacobs, Saquon Barkley, Austin Eckler, and they all have various problems in terms of age or injury, but that's some pretty high-profile guys. And I'm very interested to see what kind of payment those guys end up getting in free agency here, because these teams are saying, I don't need a 2nd-round pick, a 3rd-round pick. I can take a guy in the 5th round and just shuffle him out there, and if he doesn't work, I got like a 6th-rounder. I'll try him. I think you're seeing these teams devalue that position even more than they used to.
Yeah, I agree with that. And my only point is, and I agree, I'm not going to go 0. I think in those first day 2 picks, first 3 rounds, the premium picks, as Jody pointed out, I'd probably go 15%, very low percentage.
Where did they get Gainwell? Was Gainwell a 3rd-round pick?
5th. Miles Sanders, you got to go Miles Sanders, who was 53rd overall. If the evaluation meets the spot and they like a player, they'll take them. The odds of that are pretty low. I'm not going to say Jody's going 0, you're going 0. They've already proven they'll take it. I would say it's low, but it has nothing to do with Ty Davis Price. I mean, nothing. 0. Absolutely 0.
Yeah.
It's just
I would be more inclined to think,
that's 0.
Like Eckler, if Eckler has no bites anywhere and they can get him at the 1 year, not even $4 million. That's too much for a running back, I think. But like a Pollard or an Eckler who both played for more, I would imagine those 2 names are probably going to be connected in some way. And if they can get him for the 1 year, prove it.
Well, I get the Eckler stuff from the standpoint that Kellen Moore was out there, but I think that's a bad sign because he looked a little bit washed last year. He looked, and I think it's pretty clear he is a descending player. He's touched the football lots. He's not quite 30. I think he's 28, 29, somewhere in that range. But he didn't look like the same guy.
I agree.
Physically.
And same with Pollard, another guy who was really good in Dallas. I don't think he used him enough in Dallas. And then he got hurt and didn't look like the same guy last year.
Yeah, but the Cowboys are going to keep Pollard. I've seen people actually suggest Pollard could get a franchise tag, which I think that's a little too far. Yeah. But the Cowboys are going to offer him. You just said 3 or 4 is too much. Cowboys are going to pay him 8 or 9 or 10, whatever they need to.
I'm just saying, if those guys are lingering, I'm just saying, if those guys are lingering out there and nobody signed them, I think you could see Howie start to do what he did in 2017 and to some extent 2 years ago, where he just gave these 1 year prove it deals to guys.
Yeah.
And if they're still available and they were like, you know what? We much like Swift last year, they went out and got Penny, and then Swift on draft day became available, so they went and got him. But
I think Howie would give a 1 year prove it deal that doesn't really make a lot of sense because Eagles already have guys. Yeah, Chris Jones, if he's available on a 1 year prove it deal, I think Howie would jump right in there. Come on. I'm telling you, there isn't a 1 year prove it deal to Tony Pollard. He's going to get paid.
No,
you're not going to get him.
I'm not talking
30
about
cents on the dollar, Mike.
No, I'm saying, like Eckler, Dobbins is another guy who's had a lot of injury issues that maybe people are just like, not giving you any more than a 1 year prove it because you're always hurt. That level of player that you're just like, okay, if you slip through the cracks. I do find free agency interesting in that there's a lot of interior offensive line guards.
Yeah, I think they might sign a guard. Yeah.
Well, they got to figure out, obviously, what Kelsey's going to do before they jump into that pot, because I would imagine those guys that are available, there's about 5 or 6 high-profile guards that could slip in and play right away, but you got to know whether or not they're going to play right away. So that's going to be something to keep an eye on too.
Ooh, that's a good reminder. Thank you, Mike Gill. Is the New Heights podcast going to drop today? Is there anywhere you can even look up as to when it's going to drop?
No, it already came out. No, they were talking, no retirement talk. They were talking, obviously.
Was it on yesterday? They dropped it
I believe it came out yesterday. They were talking, obviously, about the shooting in Kansas City. And they were, I just saw some clips. I didn't hear the whole show, but they dropped some clips and there was no retirement talk. So,
well, then maybe next
New Heights came out 3 hours ago.
Yeah. So this morning they must have dropped the clips yesterday. So
that was, I thought there was a possibility that this could be.
Well, I think stuff keeps happening. You have to address what happened in Kansas City because Travis was there, and that complicates things. And there's just a lot going on. But I mean, I maintain the Eagles probably know already, and the timing is the timing. But the Eagles. Well, in other words, what Mike was saying, the Eagles aren't going in blind to free agency saying, "Oh, maybe we need a guard, maybe we don't need a guard." They know they're going to know whether Jason Kelce's back or not, and if Jason Kelce's back, they probably don't need a guard.
What's the free agent date? March 14th, something like that.
March 11th.
11th is the first day of legal tampering.
Yeah.
The legal tampering, right? So they have a little less than a month to get an answer. You would think Kelce will have a decision by then, and then they go in. Now, I would ask this question, and I think I know the answer, but they definitively would move Juergens. They didn't like him enough at guard like they did Dickerson to keep him there and try to find a center.
No,
correct?
Yeah. If Kelce retires, Cam Juergens is the center, and then you got to find a right guard. I don't think you can count on Tyler Steen. I think the Eagles would hope.
There's a lot of good guards in this free agent crop here. There's a lot of them. I like the kids.
Yeah, I brought up, you know what? John Runyon's a free agent. John Runyon Jr. I've advocated trading for Asante Samuel, signing John Runyon Jr. and drafting Jeremiah Trotter Jr.
Bring second generation Eagles all back in South Florida.
That would make everybody happy.
God continues to tell me it's a DNA league, so
it is.
If you believe it, you got to act on it, right?
John is going all Nick Sirianni and pandering here.
Yes, pandering.
He knows the crowd. He knows his audience. Just go get everybody's son and put them on the team.
The fans would love it. I don't think.
Here's the key question. Can they sign A.J. Brown's son to a futures deal? That would be the key. If you're going top DNA, you got to get A.J.'s little guy signed to a futures deal 19 years in advance.
What you could do is offer LeBron James a chance to play tight end and tell Bronny he can play defensive back, and that'll get them as a package deal, and then they can go play for the Sixers too.
They're still talking about the Sixers getting LeBron James on the trade market before the trade.
CBS Sports.
Daryl Morey put it out there. That was all on Daryl.
CBS Sports ranked all 30 teams' chances of getting LeBron if he became a free agent. And other than the Lakers retaining him, the Sixers were the top team on the list.
Of course. By the way, I got the odds for Josh Jacobs yesterday. I told Jody. Number 2, Eagles. Stop it. Stop it. Stop.
Here's what I'll say. There's a better chance of Josh Jacobs signing with the Eagles than Howie Roseman using a day 1 or day 2 pick on a running back. Jacobs is a guy whose number could come down. Pollard, the Cowboys desperately need, so I don't think he's going anywhere.
Day 1, I agree with you. Day 2, no way. No way.
Day 2, the last 2 times they took Ertz in the second round and they took Goddard in the second round when Ertz was 29. Well, Goddard's 29 now, so tight end in round 2.
And that tight end draft, though, I've heard, except for the kid from Georgia. But
true.
I'm still early in the process. He's going to be a first-round pick.
He'll be.
I saw mock drafts with him in the top 5.
Yeah. He's a big time prospect.
He's that good a player. All right, Mike Gill, thank you very much for staying as long as you did. Feel free to go out and wear your Providence shirt proudly out there down the shore. And good luck with that. It's cold.
Yeah. At Mike Gill's show, make sure. Yeah.
Is that long sleeve or tee?
Short sleeve.
Short sleeve. So
showing the Rock goosebumps there. Is that for being on the show? At Mike Gill Show, listen to Mike. He'll talk about. You'll probably talk about Craig Carton today, 2 to 6, a little bit. Yeah, you're gonna have to.
I'm working the phones now. I'm working the phones.
All right,
there you go. Mike Gill from the Sports Bash, 97.3 ESPN down the shore. All right, Mac coming back. Damn, we went long with Gill. Brandon Lee Gouton from Bleeding Green Nation scheduled to join us in just about 10 minutes from now. Hey, Birds fans, here is your chance to save upwards of 40% on your car insurance. You can do it right now from one of JAKIB Sports' great partners. Here's what you need to do. Call one of the managing partners. That would be either Jim or Fran, and tell them you're a friend of both JAKIB Sports and Birds 365.
Hi, I'm Jim Muehlbronner, Managing Partner at Del Val Insurance Group. Give us a call. We're a local, knowledgeable agency, not an 800 number. Go Birds!